Is there anything worse in the world than being an Atletico Madrid fan?
I don't think it is. It's awful.
It sounds awful.
It's awful.
One of my friends called them the Tottenham of Spain, which I thought was harsh on everyone.
It's harsh,
Yeah.
it's harsh on Atletico, I think.
It's harsh on Atletico. It's harsh
They
on
won the
Tottenham.
league, what?
Twice.
Yeah, exactly.
Twice under Simeone. Yeah, they won the league twice under Simeone. And
They're more the Liverpool of Spain.
yeah, in terms of returns, yeah, and at least they actually turned up for their Champions League finals. I know they lost them both, but they were very it's only to Real Madrid, and Real Madrid just waved that magic wand, didn't they, in the Champions League? And
I think that's it. For Real Madrid luck, that's it. I think
It's crazy.
they can't kick on. I mean, seriously, yesterday that penalty is just mad. Every time I see it,
What did you think? Like when you were watching it the first time?
goal.
Yeah.
What do you think? Goal. No chance. Courtois saving this one. He's just rifled it on the roof of the net. Then you watch it again. Yes. What kind of advantage has actually Alvarez gained from touching the ball with his standing leg?
as far as I'm concerned, if a player was able to purposely kick it against their standing leg and change the trajectory of the ball, that's fair game for me.
It's an incredible
Deserves
piece
a
of
goal.
skill.
Yeah.
I've watched maybe 50 replays of that, and I've seen maybe 2 that I thought, yeah, probably hit both the feet.
The rule is obviously has to be scrapped because the penalty should be retaken, if anything, during shootouts, not just cancelled. This is okay, it doesn't count anymore. Just retake the penalty, which I think is already quite harsh because, keeper might guess it, Courtois might guess it. But, I mean, come on. It's fine.
It's just so cruel.
Yeah.
Like, so cruel at that stage of Champions League.
On a different level as well, it seemed as though obviously you'd had a better handle on it if you were there, but it seemed like the supporters didn't have a clue for a good few minutes. But
They said in commentary, like the Atletico supporters didn't have a clue what was going on.
Did you see Simeone in the press conference?
Yeah.
He was more restrained than I was expecting. Like he took it well by Simeone standards.
Like calling out all the reporters. Like, did you see it? Did he take 2 touches?
But like Simeone, to be honest.
Oh, I love him. He's great value, isn't he?
Let's go. I need to shoot at 1:30. I got Builder coming on it.
After a non-stop couple of weeks in the football calendar, we have one last weekend before the international break. We're back to full strength as our panel of betting experts pick apart matches from England, Italy and Scotland. We'll also take a broader look at how punters should approach the rest of the Premier League season, with very little to play for at the top and the bottom. All that and more on today's show. Hello and welcome to the Football Betting Pod powered by Betting Expert. I'm your host, Daniel Jenkins, joined as ever by Betting Expert's football editor, Sam Ingram. How are we doing, Sam?
Hello, Dan. All good. How are you?
I'm good. Enjoying the Champions League?
Loved it.
Blockbuster entertainment, wasn't it, in midweek?
Loved it. PSG Liverpool was just a great game. Moving on to last night, Atleti Real Madrid. It was just cinema, wasn't it? Really, Simeone going off after the game and everything that's come from that penalty shootout. It was just, it was brilliant.
Also joining us, Daniele Fistrella. Congratulations to your Inter Milan.
Yeah, thank you. After establishing which Bayern is the best of the two between me and Sam, obviously
It took 2 minutes.
I think this gonna come back to haunt me as obviously Inter faces the juggernaut Bayern Munich, but a bit of time to reflect on that. So a good achievement, I'll say, from Inter for Italian football. Yeah, quarterfinals. I was reflecting this week how many times I've seen my team. I make no secret of being an Inter Milan team in the quarterfinals of the Champions League European Cup during my lifetime. I can say that I'm the oldest here between all of us. Only 7 times with this. So it's not a given. It's not a given that you have to qualify in the top 8. And then if you look at the odds, why Bayern Munich are so favourites, I'm sure we'll touch on that.
Joining us back again, Scott Thornton, after his injury layoff. How you doing, man?
Yeah, injury layoff on Monday, but it was a good last pod for me. So probably we'll pick up from where we left off there.
Yeah, I do. Before we get into the bets, we'll keep it brief today, but I do want to have a little chat about the state of play in the Premier League. Obviously, Liverpool headed out of Champions League in midweek. Disappointing for the treble bet that you put on a couple of weeks ago, Daniele. That's unfortunately lost. But with Liverpool heading out, obviously there's looking at the table, the top and the bottom, there isn't really a huge amount to play for in the Premier League at this point. We're here in the middle of March. Title's pretty much settled. I think we all agree the three relegation spots are all going to be filled by the newly promoted clubs. Top four is probably all that's really left to play for. It's a stark contrast to the last couple of years. I think we've had title races go down to the last couple of match days in most of the last, probably 8 or 9 seasons. It feels like. So how do we approach this? Sam, I'll throw it to you. Like, how are you looking at the rest of the Premier League season with nothing more than really pride European spots, maybe the lower European spots to play for?
Yeah, well, I think it might just be as easy as when City, Newcastle, Brighton, Villa, Bournemouth, etc., when they play Everton, Tottenham, United, maybe look to side with them in some way. If you can't on the main markets, then I'm sure there'll be some kind of props that you'll be able to get on side with. Maybe it's shots away from home or something like that. Because those teams that we've mentioned, Wolves, if they win on the weekend against Southampton, might be 9 points adrift, results dependent from Ipswich and Leicester. So, if they're in that position and Wolves come and take on Bournemouth, then it's pretty obvious who's going to be, really up for it and going for the 3 points. So I would just say bear in mind who's going for those European spots and try and get them on side.
Those European places are a very big deal for some of these clubs as well. Obviously, it's a big deal for everybody. But if Brighton could potentially get Champions League football, that's monumental. Bournemouth are down in 9th, but they're only 3 points off 5th. European football for Bournemouth would be absolutely massive. Fulham are still within a shout as well. They've been in Europe, I think, as recently as 2007, 2008. But the point being, these aren't all irregular contenders. And obviously, I should mention Forest as well, potential return to the Champions League. I know they've got pedigree in the competition. That's a very long time ago. I think the fact that there's a lot of unusual suspects, let's say, in there, I think it adds to hopefully the level of performance we see from those teams in trickier fixtures towards the end of the season.
Unless we all get excited for the race to finish 11th, which could guarantee a Conference League spot. I mean, there are pages and pages of permutations, but in virtue of having English clubs still involved in the 3 competitions. If Aston Villa wins the Champions League and doesn't finish in the top 5, and one between Man United and Tottenham wins the Europa League and Chelsea, etc., it could be up to 11th teams in the European competition, which I don't know if is a good thing or a bad thing. So then again, the following season, that ranking is very much more difficult to defend because you have to divide the points by 11 rather than 5 or 6. So it could be a blessing in disguise, and we saw it, or actually a curse in disguise, if we have seen it this year with Italy. But yeah, looking at the permutation and the projections with the Chelsea, Newcastle, and Nottingham Forest all projected to finish within 2 points of each other for the crucial 5th point, I think the narrative really shifts towards those teams, and probably teams that can qualify for the first time for Champions League, and how can Chelsea's futures or finances could be affected if they fail to make it to the top competition, which lever they will have to pull, which players will have to sell. So I'm sure there'll be plenty to talk about.
Yeah, I'm sure I'll find a hotel to sell somewhere.
Yes.
Let's get on with the bets. Sam, do you want to kick us off with this potential relegation clash with Southampton versus Wolves?
Yes. So let's start off with a stat. So whet the appetite. So after 28 fixtures, no club in the Premier League history has returned fewer points than Southampton on 9. Ever. Derby County's record-breaking season in 2007-2008 saw them with 10 points going into match day 29. So this is a poor team, but at the level, at these standards, we know that. And this selection was a standout line from the slate for me. I'm going for over 2.5 goals at 1.88. What is the first thing you think about when you think of Southampton matches in the Premier League at the minute?
Low quality.
Goals.
Nice. Yeah.
No, sorry, carry on.
Yeah. I was after goals, but yeah, you're absolutely bang on. So over 2.5 goals has landed in 10 of the last 10 fixtures for Southampton. As you might expect, no team has overseen more over 2.5 goals games than Wolves this season. So that somewhat slowed down under Pereira, but he still witnessed 7 of 12 games going over 2.5 goals for Wolves. So when the two come together, to get over 2.5 goals at a backable price for that to be the line, it was just something that stood out straight away from me. And watching the game quite closely on the weekend, because I had a bet on the podcast of under 4.0 goals, Southampton versus Liverpool. Some of the defending on show, I saw a Southampton defender use his elbow to control the ball in the penalty area. They were sloppy in and around the box in possession, not aggressive enough in their duels, just everything you'd expect really from a team really struggling at that end of the table. I think Wolves should find joy with or without Matthias Cunha. So yeah, I'm going to go for goals over 2.5 at 1.88. I think that's a standout in this game. You could back Wolves. I think they're a backable price. Were they around even money? But I think more confidently than that, I'm expecting goals at St. Mary's.
Yeah, the data is there, the record is there. There have been quite a lot of goals in Southampton's recent matches. But looking at their recent opponents, Sam, they've played Liverpool, they've played Chelsea, they've played Brighton, they've played Bournemouth. Obviously, all of those sides have got pretty decent attacks, a good variety of players moving forward. Have Wolves got that? Like, you're kind of relying on Wolves to get you over the line with this bet, aren't you? Because Southampton are the lowest scoring team in the Premier League, aren't they? 0.7 goals per game they're currently getting at the moment. Are you putting too much reliance on Wolves to get you over the line?
Maybe, but they are playing Southampton, who
Oh,
are shipping goals at like a rate of knots. But I think Southampton can get on the score sheet now, Dan. They're relegated. They are. They've got 9 points. They're 8 points off the two in front of them. They are relegated. So that kind of pressure of trying to claw back points is kind of gone. They can just go out on Saturday playing at home and look to play some football, maybe with a little bit of additional freedom now that they are pretty much relegated. And I wouldn't be too surprised to see them score a goal. They've scored against Liverpool on the weekend, scored against Bournemouth when they come to town, scored 2 away at Portman Road, scored against Newcastle, scored 2 away at the City Ground against Forest in January. So look, they can score goals. They are not amazing, but I expect them to get on the score sheet. And more generally, if Wolves go to Southampton and win the game, mentioned it a minute ago, then that's another season in the Premier League pretty much wrapped up for them. So that's a huge carrot on the end of a stick. That 9-point gap from the bottom 3, I think, would be terminal. I don't see anyone being caught with a 9-point gap from that bottom 3 with 9 games to play. Ipswich and Leicester aren't good enough to make that up. So this is a big game for Wolves. So I expect them to go there, attack, create chances, definitely. We just need to see them score a couple goals. And for Southampton, yeah, playing relatively freely, perhaps. Any hopes of safety is gone. They've contributed at least 1 goal in 7 of the last 10 games. So hopefully the sun's shining and they feel like doing another goal here. That would be nice. And then, yeah, over 2.5 at 1.88. I thought it probably should be maybe over 2.75. So happy to take that goal line in the Premier League, especially when Southampton are playing, because we know that they concede quite freely. But they have got a goal in them as well. So 1.88 over 2.5.
yeah, over 2.5 has landed in 79% of Wolves' Premier League matches this season. So it does look good. Looking at the odds, how are Wolves above evens to win this match? It feels very generous. Like Asian handicap line is set at minus 0.5. You can get 2.05 for Wolves to win. Was there any temptation to go for that?
Yeah, and also it's the same for Nottingham Forest away at Ipswich, and it just feels like the most obvious 2 bets in the Premier League this weekend. But I don't know. I'm not fully. I don't know. I'm not fully confident about Wolves going there and getting the win. They really should do, but yeah, I was more confident in going for goals just in case this turns into a shootout, like I think it might do. Kind of an end-to-end encounter, and Southampton managed to get on the score sheet a couple of times. But yeah, there'll be plenty of people keen on that evens price, I'm sure.
Yeah, could definitely see a 2-2 or a 3-2 in this one. Sam's first bet is over 2.5 goals in Southampton versus Wolves. That's a 1.88. Daniele, over to you for your first bet from Italy.
So again, Napoli, which we got a push last weekend with an Asian handicap -1. So we go again, Asian handicap -1 for Antonio Conte's men as they travel to Venezia, second against second from bottom. careful with taking for granted these games. Inter last weekend, first against bottom, they had to come back from 2-0 to win 3-2 and make the fortunes of anyone who deals with the heart failure issues around the Milan province, because there might have been a few. Yeah, I mean, jokes apart, Napoli look good. They have started running again. They have ended the winless streak of 5 games, a good success against Fiorentina, although they should have put the game away much earlier. But this is a Napoli side that has got a big problem. They don't score enough. That's very simple, and you can see it. They only average 1.61 goals per match. Now, in the history of Serie A, since the league is played with 20 teams, no team has ever won the Scudetto having scored so few goals after 28 games. Napoli have scored 45 goals. No team has ever won the Scudetto scoring less than 50 goals after 28 games. But Napoli have got a big advantage over Inter, especially. They play much less this season, and if Inter goes all the way in the 3 competition, from now on, they would have played 10 games, Inter would have played 19. They face Venezia, who surprisingly have bounced back. Three draws, and the hero has been the new goalkeeper, Jonu Tradu, once in the books of Inter. And when they had to replace Filip Stankovic, the son of the great Dejan Stankovic, in February, it seemed everything was going badly, because Filip Stankovic has been one of the best goalkeepers in Serie A this season. But Radu has come out with good performances, and in 3 games he has prevented over 5.5 expected goals. So can Venezia actually get saved? I don't think so. I think they're going to finish second from bottom. Their home form is decent. They average 1 point per game, but they will face Napoli, Milan, and Lazio at the Stadio Penso. So not exactly easy for them to do it. I think Napoli are going to win this one. And probably, they won't score too many goals, maybe just a couple of goals. So Asian handicap -1, which pays 190, by the way.
Yeah, Betsy projections for this game put the line at 1.17, so 0.52 projected for Venezia and 1.69 for Napoli. Are you concerned here, Daniele, that they don't have the firepower to get this bet over the line? Because Venezia have been quite difficult to beat, haven't they? I think they've only lost one of their last 14 games by more than 1 goal. It's quite rare to get over that -1. As you said, the goalkeeper's playing very well. They're not conceding too many.
No, they're not conceding too many. Venezia, and actually on underlying data, on expected points, they should be out of the bottom 3. But equally, Napoli have scored in the last 11 away games, and against Inter and against Fiorentina, they won the XG battle. They probably could have scored more than the 3 goals they got in total. Venezia are struggling. They haven't won at home since 22 December. But yes, at home, they're quite solid. Venezia have only lost 1 game at home by more than a 1 goal. I don't know. I think Napoli are going to win it. Look, there is a potential of a push here, but Napoli got the big advantage. They can go top of the league because they play Sunday lunchtime, and then Atalanta-Inter, which we're going to talk in a minute, they're going to play in the evening. So I don't think they're going to let escape such a big opportunity to go top before the international break. Yeah, I think that's within the reach.
Yeah, of course, with this Asian handicap bet, if Napoli win by exactly 1 goal, then your stakes will be returned. Yeah. But Daniele's bet is Napoli -1 Asian handicap market against Venezia. That's at 1.90 with a full unit on that. Scott, back over to you for a Premier League match, Bournemouth versus Brentford.
Yeah, I'm enjoying watching Bournemouth. I'd imagine a hell of a lot of people are. It's quite similar to a bet we did for last weekend. Last weekend we backed throws and tackles in the game against Tottenham. We did say when we were discussing that we should see goals. And this time we're going for shots and throws. The thinking is basically that Andoni Iraola's style of aggressive pressing and looking for his players to look pass vertically up the pitch, it lends itself really nicely to a nice bit of organised chaos, really. Shots and throw-ins. Bournemouth matches see the most throws in the Premier League with 39.64 on average. They'll see the most shots with 29.64 on average. So there we it's self-explanatory really. Over 24.5 shots and over 35 point throws is well within the reach of those averages. This bet has won in 4 of the last 5 competitive matches. Brentford away matches also seeing plenty of shots, 29.31 on average. The throws are a little bit more tame, an average of 30.31 throws, but that tends to go out the window when they play Bournemouth. They were 40 in the reverse fixture and 39 the last time the team squared off at this ground. So the thinking is that Iraola is continuing to really impress. The style is very much a constant, and that style is yielding results in these sort of prop markets like your shots, throws, and tackles. So let that continue here. And Brentford a little bit chaotic as well, aren't they, with their run of 4 away victories after not winning an away game for maybe 9, 10, and then they haven't won a home game in that period, but they started winning the away game. So they're an erratic team as well, and I think that will lend itself nicely to some shots and throws here.
Yeah, it's been quite a strange season for Brentford, isn't it? We talked about that home form at the start of the season. Do you know that in all games, in all Premier League games involving Brentford, do you know when the last time the home team won a match involving Brentford was?
I feel like you've told me this one in recent weeks as well, and
Yeah,
I've gone blank.
Go
for it.
It was when Chelsea beat them on the 15th of December. That was 3 months since the home team has won in a match involving Brentford. This is an interesting match, isn't it? It should be one for the neutrals. I think Betsy has this as the highest projected goals total of any Premier League match on this match day. Total is at 3.63. So expecting that shot line to come in without a problem. Is the throw line where this one could fall down, Scott? Obviously, if it's a bit of a chaotic match, it should lead to more throws. But if you had to pick, which is the likeliest one for this one to fall down?
I've tried to put it in a way where I feel equally as confident as about both of those lines. So obviously, I've adjusted it to get the price. Just the fact that Bournemouth matches have seen so many throws. I think there were 49 throw-ins in their game against Tottenham last week. It was high 40s anyway, so we're already not really thinking about that going below the 36. Obviously, it does happen, but I just think stylistically it's a good matchup. I was tempted to include some goals in the build-up because, again, I think the shots should see some goals. And like last week, I don't think the first goal was until about the 40th minute, and we ended up seeing plenty. Just Bournemouth providing entertainment, and Iraola certainly deserves all the plaudits he had. And the Real Madrid links speak volumes regardless of how solid they are.
Yeah, definitely. Betsy line, as I said, is at 3.63. Bookmaker line is at 3.25. So could be a bit of value there. Could be a bit of a ding dong. Scott's first bet is over 24.5 shots and over 33.5 throws when Bournemouth take on Brentford. That's a 1.90 with a full unit on that. Sam, over to you for your second single.
Yes, going down to League Two in Bradford even, versus Tranmere. Bradford minus 0.75 Asian handicap. That's at 1.83. So Bradford have been brilliant at home in recent weeks. They've won all of their last 10 matches at Valley Parade. They've not conceded a goal in their most recent 6 games in front of a home crowd. So Bradford's home form looks like it might be guiding them to a League Two promotion for the first time in a long time. It's a big club, big fan base. The attendance here will probably be nearing 20,000, I think, as a promotion chase gathers pace, and that's in League Two, so big crowds. There was 17,000 at the MK Dons game a few games ago. Bradford on the weekend got beaten by Gillingham away from home, which is it's not ideal. It stopped a 7-game undefeated run, but I am expecting some kind of a response here. I'm hoping that provides a bit of a jolt to this Bradford side, and we see them at it from the first whistle in front of a packed Valley Parade. They're playing Tranmere on Saturday, who are statistically the worst away side in League Two. 9 points from 17 games is the lowest return in the third tier. They've won 2, drawn 3, and lost 12 of their 17 games. They have recently said goodbye to Nigel Atkins. Andy Crosby's come in and he's steadied the ship. He's had 3 games as head coach. He's overseen a win and 2 draws for his first 3 matches in charge. And he's now consequently being handed the reins until the end of the season. So one of those draws under Crosby was away at Grimsby. Before that last away game in Grimsby, which ended 1-1, Tranmere had lost 10 away games in a row. So not great away from home, I think it's safe to say. They're in a fight to get away from the relegation spots. They've returned 7 points in their last 7, which is huge for their chances of remaining in the Football League. Bradford at the other end of the spectrum are chasing automatic promotion. So I think it should be a good game. There's a lot on the line for both. But in the end, I think Bradford have a bit more quality. They're a little bit more confident at home, especially. They're in a good rhythm, winning 10 on the bounce at that venue. So I think at the prices, at the Asian handicap line, I think it's worth backing them to make it 11 out of 11 against the worst away side in the division.
Yeah, it's the worst away side in the division against the best home side in the division, isn't it, Sam? Have you seen the Betsy projections for this game, just out of interest?
I've just
Yeah.
seen her best bet for the
You
week
know
in
where I'm
League
going
2,
with
which is
this, don't
quite
you?
funny. Yeah.
Betsy's best bet is Tranmere plus 0.75 Asian handicap against Bradford. So what do you think of that, Sam, going against them
Yeah.
again?
I don't do this on purpose. Like I didn't even see that until we started recording. But yeah, no, fair play to her. I don't think there are many people that are going to be backing Tranmere on the handicap this weekend because of everything that I've just gone through. But League 2 is a really difficult league to call right now, week by week. Only one of the top 7 won at the weekend, which was Wimbledon at home to Notts County, I think it was. So just goes to show that the big boys at the top of the division, they don't win every week. And that's probably the most off-putting thing about backing a promotion chaser in League 2 right now. And for me as well, actually, if I'm going to be totally honest, Bradford are one of those teams for me. We all have like a list of teams to just like avoid at all costs because they always lose when you back them and you can never get them right. And that's Bradford for me. And they've been that way for me for the past decade at least. So personally, that's a bit of a concern. I've got a bit of a Bradford hoodoo. But just going on the football, Dan, yeah, I mean, 10 wins from 10 is undeniable, really. And so is 10 losses from 10 away games so recently for Tranmere. And both take some doing. But I think Bradford, full of confidence at this venue, I think they're going to create plenty of opportunities and we just need them to finish off a couple, and I think they'll be okay.
Yeah, one win. That win over Bromley was Tranmere's first in League 2 since the 4th of January. And if we know about anything about the new manager, Bounce Sam, there is usually an uplift, but it does only last about 2 or 3 matches. And then we start to see a return to mean. We start to see them go back down to where they were before because, in my opinion, quality to players is the most important thing. So let's hope that happens for Sam's second bet, which is Bradford minus 0.75 versus Tranmere, the Asian handicap market. That's a 1.83 with a full unit on that. Daniele, over to you for probably the biggest match on the slate in the Premier League this weekend, Arsenal versus Chelsea.
Yes, and this time we go with Cole Palmer, or better called him Cold Palmer, because he's going through a cold streak. He hasn't scored in ages, actually 9 games in all competition. Longest drought he ever experienced in his Chelsea career. No assist since the 1st of December, but this is a little bit of a chicken and egg situation, because are Chelsea doing badly because Cole Palmer is not scoring, or is Cole Palmer not scoring because Chelsea are doing badly, have changed the system, etc. I've crunched the number a little bit. In the first 16 matches, Chelsea have averaged XG of 2.13, which is more than what they did under Pochettino in the last season, so when they were doing well. But in the last 12 matches of the Premier League, they only average 1.86 XG. So it is a considerable reduction. Of course, defensively they're doing better. They are conceding less XG now than they used to, but only 0.5. And you could tell that this tactical shift to try to make Chelsea a little bit more cautious, a little bit more organized, has penalized their biggest talents, which was able to find more space in those games that were very open and a little bit chaotic. But Palmer, at the other hand, last season had a tally which was impressive: 33 goals involvement. Now he's got 20 with 10 games to play. Still, there is plenty of room for him to equal his tally with Chelsea. But I think somehow the statistics don't quite tell the whole story. If you take away the fact that he scored 4 goals against Brighton and gave 3 assists in a game against Wolves, then his tally only 10 goals and 3 assists, and he only scored or assisted in 12 games across all competitions so far. He started playing in the Conference League right now. He plays, maybe doesn't play tonight against Copenhagen. And then, the next 2 games are Arsenal, Spurs. Huge game for Chelsea, who are now projected for the first time by Betsy to finish outside the top 4, although top 5 could do for them. The price is huge. 247 for him to score or assist. Normally you wouldn't get that price on a player who's still the leader for expected assist in the Premier League. So I'm gonna take it at a half a unit, at 247 if I'm not wrong, to him to score. Sorry, at 270 actually, 270 for him to score or assist against Arsenal.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. It's an interesting match. Obviously, Chelsea have come off the boil a little bit in the last couple of months, haven't they? I was looking back; they haven't beaten the side currently in the top half of the table since they beat Aston Villa 3-0 on the 1st of December. So, what do you think's going on with them, especially in the last? It's kind of since Christmas, isn't it? The big downturn in form has been for Chelsea. What do you think about them at the moment?
I think the teams they've worked them out a little bit, and they defended with a lower block. They try to concede less chances to them, and I think there's also been a change in approach from Maresca. He understood what his best 11 is, probably, but he has made the games a little bit more tight, a little bit more cagey, and probably hasn't given as much freedom to some of his forward players to express themselves. So it's been a combination of both. Chelsea at the beginning of the season were an unknown quantity because of the many changes they made. I think halfway through the season, teams have understood how to defend with them. But when it comes to the game against Arsenal, it is curious to see that among all the teams that play away this weekend, Chelsea have got the lowest projected chances of victory according to Betsy, 22.2. But it's an Arsenal side that only kept 2 clean sheets in the last 9 outings across all competition. The Premier League title is virtually over. Maybe they might turn the focus on the Champions League. I don't think they're going to rest players because they did against PSV, but it's not going to be the same drive as it was in the reverse fixture when they drew 2-2. Look, as I said, for Palmer to score or assist is a good price, 270. Probably he doesn't play on Thursday against Copenhagen, so why not take him at this price?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good price, longer than I thought it would be, to be honest. Chelsea have been struggling for goals away from home, but as you said, Arsenal aren't keeping too many out, especially in their home matches. So, yeah, looks good. Daniele's going for Cole Palmer to score or assist versus Arsenal. It's a 2.70. And you're going for half a unit on that, Daniele?
Yeah, alpha unit, because obviously it's almost over the 2 point mark, so I think it will be safe just in case he doesn't score, he doesn't start, he can pick some injury. I think you need to be a bit tactical with these things. When there are longer odds, no points in putting a full unit on that.
Yeah, makes sense. That's the 1:30 match in the UK kickoff time. But the big one on Sunday afternoon is the Carabao Cup final. So, Scott, what's your bet for Liverpool versus Newcastle?
This is a monumental occasion for Newcastle, isn't it? So I think we should see them offer a lot more than they did against Liverpool last month. They would have been licking their lips watching that Paris Saint-Germain game go to penalties in the week. It really it would have given them even more hope that they can do it. Obviously, Isak didn't play when they gave that tame effort at Anfield. And my thinking here is that Liverpool are going to want to start quickly. They're going to get control of the game before it's. They don't want to be chasing it basically because fatigue is definitely could be an issue, and you could see it. The likes of Szoboszlai don't seem to feel it, but a lot of the others will be struggling come the end of the game. So I'm backing over 3.5 second half shots for Newcastle and both teams to receive a card in the second half of the match, and that's at 1.95. It's a nice way of getting onside. So ideally here, Liverpool take the lead in the first half, and then Newcastle are forced to chase the game against a fatigued Liverpool as we approach the last 20 minutes. There were two shots for Newcastle in the second half at the game at Anfield in their last game in February, which, to be honest, I was quite surprised about given how bad they were. So the fact they've hit the half the amount I'd need here in a cup final is quite good to see. But again, the occasion is just so massive. Regardless, they're going to have to throw the kitchen sink at it, and that's something we just didn't see in the league game. Newcastle are averaging 6.35 second half shots in their last 20 games. Both teams have received a card in 3 of the last 4 head-to-heads. The exception was that game at Anfield last month, which again was a pretty tepid affair if you're looking for a competitive game of football. And this is going to be far from it. Newcastle reached the EFL Cup final 2 seasons ago and put in a very blunt display. They'll want to remedy that here and make sure they put a solid effort in. John Brooks is at the whistle as well. He ranks as one of the better referees in the Premier League, averaging 5.23 cards per game. The average for the league is around 4.6 at the moment, so well above that. We've got a card-happy referee, a fatigued Liverpool, and Newcastle are desperate for silverware. So let's hopefully it comes to life in second half.
Yeah, it looks good. What do you think about the game itself, Scott? I had to look back. I know Newcastle hadn't beaten Liverpool for a while, but it's nearly 10 years since Newcastle got a win over Liverpool. Do you know who the manager was that day for Newcastle? open to anyone here because I couldn't believe what I was reading.
It would have been post-Pardew, wouldn't it? Who was immediately after Pardew?
It was Steve McLaren's Newcastle getting the win over Klopp's Liverpool in Klopp's first season. It feels like a different time in the world, doesn't it?
It was certainly a different Liverpool back then, anyway. What I would say for Newcastle, they probably deserve to beat them at St James's Park in the league earlier this season. At least they give it a very solid effort. I haven't got the stats in front of me. I just remember watching that one and thinking Newcastle could have got 3 points there. Liverpool weren't bad. Newcastle just edged it when I watched it, I thought. So it's not exactly a strong opinion. But Newcastle have what it takes to give a good account of themselves here. They'll be kicking themselves with how poor they were at Anfield, how poor they were in their last EFL Cup final. So I just think they've got to remedy that here. Liverpool early lead would be the absolute dream for this bet, because as I say, I do think fatigue is going to kick in, and if Newcastle are chasing that game with 20 minutes to go, those fouls and frustration is going to come in as well. It really does look set up for a nice last 20 minutes.
Yeah, is that 3-3 draw, wasn't it, at St James's Park back earlier in the season? I think Salah just turned it on and grabbed a couple of goals for Liverpool. Open to anyone else? Any score predictions? Any what are we expecting from this Carabao Cup final, guys?
The goal line at 3.0, less than 4 goals in a cup final. That's probably where I'd end up if I had to have a bet on the main markets. They're going to be so up for this. Like Scott's already touched on it. This is one of the biggest games in their club's history for a long time. Chance at silverware, big day out at Wembley. I think they'll keep it tight. Under 3 goals looks all right. 1.83 that is on Bet365. It's probably the way I'd go.
Yeah, going to be an interesting one, definitely. Scott's going for over 3.5 second half shots for Newcastle and both teams to receive a card in the second half. That's a 1.95 when Liverpool take on Newcastle in the Carabao Cup final on Sunday. Let's get on with this week's pod treble. And Daniele, do you want to kick us off with your leg?
Yeah, that's the big game in Italy this weekend. Atalanta-Inter, then again another top of the table clash, third against first. The feeling is that almost now or never for Atalanta and Gasperini. Gasperini might leave Atalanta at the end of the season after 9 years. But this is really the last big match at the top of the table. And after beating Juventus convincingly 4-0, Atalanta are going for Inter. This is a team that has had some wobbles, a couple of draws at home. They are winless at home in 2025, but they haven't conceded a goal in the last 5 games. Against Inter, that yes, they are in the quarterfinals of the Champions League. They are accusing a little bit of fatigue because of the many games they played, and also they got injuries to deal with. Every game they seem to lose another player. First Zalewski, now De Vrij. So they're almost to the bare bone. And in this case, the break for the international competition, for the international team, is welcomed by Inter. But for this one, the 2 biggest attackers Serie A, and as I mentioned before, Serie A, yes, is won with the defense, but mostly you need to score goals. And they do average many more goals in the table than what Napoli does. But they also have an ability to exceed their expected goals. Atalanta expected goals 51.18, Inter 52.19, yet both have scored 63. This is the boogie team for Atalanta. They haven't beaten in the last 14. They've lost the last 7 in a row. But Inter this season have got a very poor points tally against the league's elite. Only 1.42 points per game against the top 9. Atalanta 1.8. And I think that's why the lead for Inter at the top of the table is so slim. Both need to score for me. Yes, potentially goals in the second half. 50% of the last 10 Atalanta games have witnessed at least 2 goals in the second half. So it's for Inter. For me, it's a both team to score, yes, with odds of 170, considering also Inter have conceded far too many goals in the league compared to last season.
Yeah, looks good. Huge game in Serie A on Sunday night. Scott, over to you for a different selection on a match we've already covered.
Yeah, Arsenal versus Chelsea, and as we say, Arsenal probably won't have the same motivation levels as Chelsea now, but still a big game nonetheless. Chelsea lost 5-0 in this fixture last season, so they'll be keen to at least put up a fight this time. And despite the one-sided nature of that game, they both still picked up 2 cards. So in this one, we're back in. Both teams received 2+ cards and over 29.5 tackles. As always with cards, referee's important, and we've got Chris Kavanagh at the whistle for this one. His average of 5.56 cards per Premier League game is the second most in the league, even better than John Brooks, who is in charge of the EFL Cup final. He ref Chelsea versus Arsenal in 2023, and there were 3 cards each in that one. Chelsea matches, again, see the most cards in the Premier League with an average of 5.36 per game. Arsenal's total is pretty modest, but they're still okay with 4.61. And 30 tackles or more has landed in 4 of the last 5 head-to-heads with an average of 33.8. Arsenal home games this season see an average of 35.23 tackles. Chelsea away games see 34.93 tackles. So 29.5 tackles looks doable. It's a rivalry that's important to both teams. There's a good referee in charge. Let's make it feisty.
Looks good. Sam, close it off with your selection.
Yeah, so I'm going over to Scotland in the Old Firm. Celtic at 1.72 to win, which is a fairly short price in the Old Firm derby, but there is a big advantage for Celtic for the home side. Rangers play tonight in the Europa League, Thursday night in Europe. Massive game to get themselves into the quarterfinals against Jose Mourinho's Fenerbahce. So you can imagine what that game's going to be like. Rangers are certainly in for a game. Big tackles, big atmosphere, a lot of running, a lot of emotion at Ibrox. Those Rangers players will be waking up on Friday morning knowing they've been in a proper game of football. And then 2 days later on Sunday at midday, 12:45 in the UK, off to Celtic Park to face a Celtic side that have no European commitments. It's just a massive ask for the Rangers players in my mind. And we should remember as well that Celtic are 16 points ahead of Rangers. So Rangers have no chance whatsoever at overturning that deficit in a league where Celtic are so dominant. And yeah, like I said, it's a Celtic team free of Champions League football with a full focus on the league, which they've wrapped up, and a cup semi-final in April. So Sundays, it's not Rangers' priority, not at all. That lays in Europe, regardless of it being an Old Firm derby. So I think they might just be a yard off the pace of Celtic here, and for that reason, I'm going for Celtic at 1.72 to win the game.
Yeah, looks good. If you put all 3 of those bets together into a treble, you'll get odds of 6.01, which we will be back in for a quarter of a unit. Can we just take a moment to appreciate the football schedule on Sunday, please? Because we've got Celtic versus Rangers at 12:30. Then you can go straight into Arsenal-Chelsea at 1:30. Then the Carabao Cup final. Then, I mean, you've got your choices in the evening. You can go PSG-Marseille, or you can go Atalanta versus Inter, or you can wait and go Atletico-Barca in the night.
Not sure I'll be getting up off that sofa, to be honest. That could be me for the day.
I think it will.
Horizontal.
Sounds like a good day to have a hangover.
It does.
One to think about. We couldn't condone, but one to think about. Let's have a recap of the bets, please. Everyone singles. Sam, do you want to kick us off?
Yes, I've gone for over 2.5 goals in Southampton versus Wolves at 1.88. Bradford minus 0.75. Asian handicap at 1.83 at home to Tranmere, and also Celtic to beat Rangers in the Old Firm at 1.72, all for 1 unit.
Yep. And Daniele?
For me, it's Napoli with an Asian handicap -1 as they travel to Venezia on Sunday lunchtime, and then Cole Palmer to score or assist against Arsenal, half a unit, that's 270.
And Scott?
So I've gone Bournemouth versus Brentford, over 24.5 shots and over 35.5 tackles at 1.9. And then the EFL Cup final, Liverpool versus Newcastle, over 3.5 second half shots for Newcastle, and both teams receive a card in the second half at 1.95, a unit on both.
Yep. And the pod treble, Sam's gone for Celtic to beat Rangers at 1.72. Scott's gone for both teams to receive 2+ cards and over 29.5 tackles in Arsenal versus Chelsea. And Daniele's gone for both teams to score in Atalanta versus Inter. That's a 1.70. If you put all 3 of those bets together into a treble, you'll get odds of 6.01, which, as I said, we will be backing for a quarter of a unit. We're on good form bet-wise. Very quickly before we get out here, currently season 2 overall profit is at 3.71% for just since the start of the season. Overall show profit is at plus 5.22%. Sam, you're at plus 6.40 for the season and plus 11.73 overall since we started this podcast 62 episodes ago. So well done to all of you. Well done to all of our guests down the months. Very, very good stuff. If you are going to be using any of the bets from today's show, then please gamble responsibly. Only bet when you can afford to lose. Thank you as ever, Sam Ingram.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Daniele Fuscello.
Thank you.
Thank you, Scott Thornton.
Cheers, Dan.
And thanks from me. We'll be back next week for the internationals.
Bye-bye.